everyone. I hope you guys are doing really well. My name is Eva, and I want to thank you for joining me here today in this video. Before we get started, let's just take a nice deep breath together. Letting our bodies relax. Letting any tension go. If you feel like you maybe just want to move around a little bit. If you got to shake it out. Just letting your spirit settle into your awareness. Breathing in and out of the center of all being. Remembering the truth of our eternal reality. Very good, thank you. So today, I was feeling really called to do this healing. It's been many, many months now since the energy of inanna started coming really, really strongly through, especially in the vocal code. And I wanted to talk today a little bit about her mythology and the sort of energy she represents, and to do a little bit of code healing with this energy already coming through very, very strongly of sovereignty. This was also very strongly coming through in the trance meditation, which I'll link below. I just released today. Having a lot to do with this idea of return to heaven, and this theme that kept coming through in that work was the name. Remember the name. The name of God is your name. The name of God is one. It was very much releasing all identity markers that we've made in the ideas of the false, of this world of dreams, samsara, like really shedding them, letting them go, to rest in the eternity of our being, to reorient ourselves to miracle mindedness. And this was coming up very strongly in the context of not projecting limitations into the future, not anticipating having to navigate the difficulties that you faced in the past. And inanna really strongly represents this. I'm just going to bring up a couple notes that I took. Because of the journey, her sort of most famous journey is her descent into the underworld. So inanna is the queen of heaven and earth. She's known as Ishtar to the Mesopotamians. Inanna is the Sumerian name, but that was the name that was really strongly coming through for me. And this probably started, oh my God, it might have even been a year ago. So yes, heaven and earth, sexual energy and creation, fertility and sovereignty. So if you guys have been following me for a while, or if you haven't, so much of my work is this shedding of this false identity. All of these constructs that we navigate, all these paradigms, all of these false laws that we then enforce on ourselves and force ourselves to abide by, which limits the infinite potential of the field. So just stripping all of that away. So her descent into the underworld is when she becomes aware that her sister, Ereshkigal, who's the queen of the underworld, has lost her consort, and she's distraught. And Inanna chooses to descend to sort of witness and help integrate this energy. When she gets there, she has to go through the 7 gates of hell. And this really, really mirrors the representation of our chakra system as well. So as she goes through each of these gates to get down to her sister, she has to give up or release. She disrobes, she just takes apart all of the symbols, all of the representations of her power. So in the crown, this is her symbol of divine authority. Her rod and her ring are the symbols of her sovereignty. Her necklace is the symbol of her communicative power. The breastplate is a symbol of protection. Her girdle is a symbol of sexual power and desire. Her bangles, creativity and expression, and her robe, which is the symbol of herself, her identity self as the person of Inanna. And so she's humbled, she's naked, she's just her pure being. She faces her sister, who screams in her face, cannot handle her divinity, her power, her, everything has been stripped from her that she has willingly given, and yet she remains as glorious and radiant and powerful as she was made as queen of heaven and earth. And, her shadow, essentially, Ishkigal, her twin, it just is so over the edge with it that she kills her. She's hung on a hook. She's left to just sort of rot there. So then 3 days later, with the help of her divine allies who bring her the water of life, she rises again. She's carrying the knowledge of both worlds now. Through this journey of self-discovery of the essence, the true essence, the truth of her being, not all of these symbols that she's taken on to represent things, not what she thought she needed to sort of guard herself or project to others what she's capable of, but her true essence. She becomes the bridge between above and below, the light and the shadow, the creation and destruction. She becomes an embodiment of the entire unified process, and she resurrects. She resurrects in this wholeness, right, of herself. And certainly we can see that this is a symbol and a representation and a story and an archetype and a narrative and a presence, truly, that we can call on to assist us when we feel like we need help, or to help us make context of our own journeys. You know, which gate are we going through at certain times, just to help us feel the embodiment of it throughout our process of releasing and the process of this inner alchemy, which is to know ourselves, right? So that's what this video is, and that's what this week's trance meditation was. And just a bit of housekeeping before we get into the code. I wanted to remind everyone of a couple options that are available for getting deeper into this work, getting deeper into the code if you're really into light language and this light code stuff, this wave genetics, this electromagnetic healing, these more expanded modalities of interacting and reunifying ourselves and expanding. I do have a membership available on Podia, which includes all of the trance meditations, so you wouldn't have to buy them a la carte, and it makes each one of them less expensive. And I also do written code to go with each of them, and I also post like a higher quality instrumental version without the vocal code in case you want to use it for movement or falling asleep or just in the background or anything like that. And it also comes with a group session. So it's $77 a month. And the next group session, which I'm going to open up to everybody, and I'll put the booking link below, will be on November 20th, because I don't want to do it while I'm still in New Mexico. I want to go back to Pikes Peak and do it there. And I'm going back to the Springs in the middle of November. So it'll be there. It'll be home. That place is so much more home to me. The spirits of that land are very much my own. And I'm very, very excited for that. So pre-Thanksgiving holidays, or whatever you've got going on, holidays in general, wherever you are in the world, could be pretty useful and grounding while we're navigating all of these energies and all of the really just immense changes and all of the shedding that we have all been doing collectively and personally. So that'll be on November 20th. You can sign up just for the group session, or you can sign up for the membership, and it will always include that session every month along with all this other stuff. So I just wanted to let everybody know that, because there's so many ways to get deeper into this work and sort of awaken it. I don't like really the word activate, but awaken it, uncover it from within you. All of this distortion code, as I see it, is just written on top of our essence. We release all of this shit from ourselves by forgiveness, and that is to undo. And now, I've mentioned this before, but all of this research that's coming out in quantum mechanics, quantum physics, is that quantum entanglement, changes we make now, choices we make now, perception that we shift now, changes the past, releases the past, it changes it. And so however everybody comes to this realization doesn't matter. We see that we can release the past from us, right? And so we go back to this sort of baseline, and that's this idea of this return to heaven. And maybe to orient us into this healing video, I've got the Course in Miracles in front of me, as I always do, and I'm on lesson 121, Forgiveness is the Key to Happiness. And the sort of touchstone to bring yourself back to every hour is. And let's just take some deep breaths and get back into the energy of what we're working with here. Very, very strong divine sovereignty. There is a strong message of releasing the identity limitations. The world is already completely different than what you're using as a template to move forward. And we really want to release, and you may even, this was coming through in the trance. You might see them come up, right? You see them come up to be released. Witness then. It's not like, it's best if we try not to perceive them as attacks, but to see that it's what is releasing from us. And so the clarity that we get by seeing from more expanded levels is to see the machinations, the mechanics of how all of this distortion was built up over time. All of these adjustments written on top of. These adjustments don't change the internal nature. They don't change your reality of your beingness as a being one with God, one of the field, one with creation, one with source. They're adjustments we wrote on top of it. But you are fully capable of reaching the inherent beingness of your reality at all times. And it is the direct experience that we allow to flow through us that undoes it. And then at different levels, we can see how that's moving through physical realms at many different levels of physicality. So let's take another deep breath and rest in this transmission that's very, very strongly coming through in the sacral, coming through in the throat. Now, we remember Inanna's story that this was coming through all of the gates, yes, opening all of the gates, leaving behind any false identity, any things we think we need that we don't need, any representations that are kind of blocking us from true embodiment of it, understanding that these are essences. And, as we talk about ascension, right, or expansion, consciousness evolution, we talk about orienting ourselves into different levels of embodiment and different, more empowered communication with the field around us to bring through manifestation of our dreams, our vision, our imagination. And so we want to orient ourselves to essentially like a higher baseline. So we'll keep that in mind. Forgiveness is the key to happiness. I will awaken from the dream that I am mortal, fallible, and full of sin, and know I am the perfect Son of God. Inatarai toyono maya shinitita kono yunti payan. Katayatuni taratoso kataik. Kinatroa nasham sanindriti siki. Shin sondorro hinam nahnin saratorro konoshamatrakinan sikiri kayiti sin. Shorro tantrayon so konoshamarro konoyantiri hinama trayasan shaki. Sanindri tina mohin datahina traini kina honor kayan dashaya. Sono kondi batayo no shamaondo yantika nandraki tien sontoshim sitritis. Never lose sight of your eternal beingness. Never lose sight of that luminosity, that radiance. Sia pishinindro natri kineam santoshi kirinti sansakini. Himandraisio so kontokana yanitayutio poshantri kinindi hisaikia. Inindraya korruitis injikini sansakina shansakirehitis. Shamandri hinindo kor kunoyati atak. Shamatraki tayoso shamahaya kinandrain som sharakorro kinandraisi. Sipi sonso kono shamsa kinandrahina. Yamaya kinatroar kini sonso kishi. Simi sansi kinindriti sanchi kia isa yanchoyi sansanatra. Yokui sin chiniana. Inionto korke sinti hanatra ina ini. Imayan jidi sinzaisia sonja kiriti sinsakindraitiat. I think it's very important, and what's the message that's very strongly coming through. If you're working with deities like this, or divine kind of consciousness essence that is like a wide archetypal patterning at like very cross-dimensional levels throughout time and like at more expanded beingness, that you do not put yourself lower than these essences. Because this, if you're working in unity, this is not the facets that you're going to see of them that they want you to position yourself to them with. Unity, yes? On par with matratunum no konchatak, dati son sum chiritri, that we can see all of the essences that make up our beingness, not that we are small in comparison to them. You will never be free of this world while you see yourself that way. That's the same as putting yourself in a limited belief about anything. Working with essences are, which is sort of why I've been resistant to do it on this channel, even though I do it in my personal life, because I don't want to portray it as if we're like, you know, you're bowing down, or that you have to like leave some offering at an altar. You don't have to do that. They want you to rise in your perception of yourself, to see that these are essences at different dimensional levels at which we are all a part of. We are experiencing ourselves at a different dimensional set. But if you choose to disempower yourself by seeing yourself in relation to any other being as being less than, or them having more power than you, you will never know. You will never know the expression of your power then, which is needed to change what's happening here on earth. Because while you are limiting yourself in your perception of yourself, you can't change yourself. Sinindrato sum shakit, you can't change your mind, because you're just using a different story to further limit yourself. Use to work with them to help yourself see at more expanded levels, but to see yourself as one with them, because that's the point of unity consciousness. One with all life. There's one mind. Kinindritis, one name. Kinandrohanasam sokonasham zaritraya konokunimatan dati kanatroat. Kindoruitisi. She didn't pass through these gates so that everybody else is like lower than her. She descended into, you know, this is way showing. This is the same as how Jesus came, you know? It wasn't to be worshipped. It wasn't to be deified. It's an example to say, this is how you do it. So use me as an example, as a parallel example of your own life. Samashondo kunandra kinatis. Shiti sinsi kinindrorti tiamakana shambakana kinadrayo konom kinindriatas. And when we think about Greek mythology and Roman mythology and those deity planes, perhaps the stories that were left behind about how how messed up the relationship that those gods had with humanity was because operating in just slightly higher dimensional frequency harmonics is still operating in levels of distortion, right? Those beings were not like these, they were not beyond fault, and they were still trying to subjugate humanity, because the power of the one is the power that is shared within all of us. But they couldn't receive honor and praise and worship and offerings if they were seen as equal. It's up to you within yourself to see yourself as equal to all life, because you are one with all life. Don't subjugate yourself to anything. We go through these sort of crucibles because it is what is needed in this realm to release yourself. Kitai hinim nison sokunishini kantai kiti kinatrahinat. Yonto korohina mahayan chana sansakire heatia sinchi kiri kiantakinyon tokotayat. Soyo shama traisi si kindi koyotoro kondatro konin sorotoya sanchaki. And this will always bring up, religious programming and distortions from throughout time. And someone got so mad at me for saying this. Like the image of a vengeful, punishing God, which I'm sorry if that disturbs you, but that is the basis of all religions that we still have. God in Christian religions booted humans out of perfection because they disobeyed. That's not a vengeful God. Yes, that's the relationship that's built by beings at different levels of consciousness dimensionality but it's all yourself that's doing that to yourself to hide the truth of the one. And so it's nothing. It's not meant to scare you. If you feel resistance in yourself to that, it's because you believe something that you know isn't true in your heart, and you don't want to believe that you believe that, and that's okay, but you gotta confront it. That's about going through the gates. You got to confront it. You got to confront what you've been holding on to, like the breastplate that you thought protected you, some vision that you think you only have, like this perfect image of God. Well, no, you don't, or else you would live in a completely different reality. There would be no image of death if you believed that. We have to be able to confront how what we believe is creating every aspect of the world that we live in. But forgiveness, and forgiveness of yourself for the beliefs that you have that made the world that you see, is the key to your freedom. There's no consequence except that you will continue to perpetuate the dream. You don't get sent to some other place that is hell. There is no other place. I will awaken from the dream that I am mortal, fallible, and full of sin, and know I am the perfect Son of God. Kinandrati sumsa kinashnintis natri kindak urutis ninchikinindrihinat. Kin shindror kun sumsatra kanchiti sinsantishiriti sinsikiriti siasayat. Kindroaritin dososhit. You can't continue to harbor these comforting illusions, right? When she walked through the gates, she stripped all of that. Everything she used as representation, everything she used to remind herself, everything she used to externalize or to comfort herself, to remember that she had these things she had to let go of, and she had to trust that what was the essence of her being would be enough. Kirito kamnakyon sokonoshintirihiti sinsikinitiosh untrotiti akayisontosas. Sotukaninditis. And while she was in that resurrection process, her divine allies, the water of life, kinandrur hinamnishikia, that which is moving through all, korukuntakishnikayasi. We are never alone in this remembering, but it doesn't serve to pretend that you believe something that at the core has a contradictory belief also. It doesn't serve, because you'll never release it unless you look at it. You got to reveal what you want to heal. You wouldn't be able to be bound to this world if that belief wasn't in, if the belief in death wasn't in you, if the belief in suffering and your deservingness of suffering and your unwillingness to see the unity of all things wasn't a belief that you're playing with, or you weren't entangled with, if you want to use quantum entanglement. That's a belief you're participating in, and so it becomes part of your alteration structure, your distortion code. It doesn't serve to try to comfort yourself with saying that you don't believe that, because you won't reveal it from yourself. It's not to punish yourself, it's to free yourself. It's to remember your own power by awakening to the fact that indeed you did make all of that up. It couldn't have happened to you because of what you are unless you decided to take that on. And so we shed all of these layers of identity through this process. And we don't go alone. Triaton dokshinkiditis. We go with those who came before to do the same thing. Kinindrihana kunduhisokoti tantarhim daraisiososhanataki natritisi. Not to worship them as beings who did something that we can't do, but beings who are just like us, who came on and put all of these masks on and all of these different outfits and all of these symbols and all of these distortion codes and all of these things to show how to get out of them. Through the center. Kayas undaptakoru kontatri kiniti kia. Kinatumat umboru kinatra. Sunsokuna shanza kinandisi kini. Kinandra kinata sunsokun chakitra hindoku. Baya shinsokono shinsakine sinsia. Sinchi kinindrihi kiati okoni matra. Kinean sokono shansa kinandata hina matro oru kiniat. Sinchindroi sinsio shonsa kinandrihi inditi ko yeshinsa kinatratus. Sanchi kinindrayusum socorruiti kinindritis. Shed it all. Don't lose sight. Ever. Never lose sight of the perfection of your being. Know that you are the perfect Son of God. And let that knowing, that beingness, that truth dissolve all other things. Through your radiant essence do you walk through the fire to purify and melt away all that which is not of your perfect essence. Amen. We're going to end it here. Thank you all so much for joining me in this video. This felt incredibly empowering. Would love to know how you guys are relating to all of it. Please leave comments if you feel so called. Share with your friends. Sign up for my newsletter. Join the channel. So many things. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you next time.